So I want to go ahead and call the City of University Heights City Council meeting, January 12th, 2021, call to order. This meeting is conducted electronically and by Zoom, and the four council are present. And the next thing is approval of minutes, December 8th, 2020. Is there any objection to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. So first thing is public input. Anyone from the public would like to speak? I'll give you 5 minutes to speak, state your name and address, and you can speak now. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Mayor's report. I'm gonna flip-flop it, and because Terry Gert is here tonight to give the report, our building inspector, for Jim and Greg. And so he's never given the hotel report before, but update, but he's been there almost every day, I know. So go ahead, Terry.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm giving the report for the hotel. It's going to be more of an inspection report. So from being there, like Louise says, I'm there a lot. It's usually early in the morning. The 5th floor, 4th floor, 3rd floor are getting pretty close to being done. All the wall coverings are on. The hallway floor and wall coverings are on. Fixtures are in the actual units. It's looking really nice. I'm real impressed. I think they're doing a really good job. 2nd floor, they've got all the drywall up, and they're starting to put stuff in the actual rooms. The rooms have been carpeted, and there is some tile in there. The bathrooms are pretty much complete, but the corridor walls are not complete yet. I think they usually wait to put the wallpaper up on those corridor walls until they get done moving stuff around so they don't tear it if they actually bump into it. The 1st floor is pretty much drywalled. You know, they're waiting on wall coverings yet. Of course, they won't do those until they're pretty darn close to being complete with moving stuff. The swimming pool, they laid all the tile in the swimming pool, except for inside the swimming pool. And that was of Monday. Conference rooms are all drywalled. Mainly the exterior finish is pretty much done. And when I talk exterior finish, I mean the building itself. Again, it's looking really nice. I have not been up to 6th floor. From talking to the electrician, the 6th floor, they really haven't done anything in there yet. I think it's supposed to be meeting rooms for the time being. Have not seen any plans if they are changing anything up there. Besides that, I know down the road here, the thing we're going to have to start, I guess, talking about is when they get ready to occupy, and depending when, they're required to have certain plantings in on the outside. I know they have all the concrete in. That's something that we're going to need to talk about in regard to certificate of occupancies and temporary certificate of occupancies, which allows them to occupy the building itself, but they would probably need to escrow for all the exterior plantings and so forth that were approved on the actual site plan. Another thing that we are going to need to receive from them, and I know I keep talking about occupying the building, but it will come up soon or quickly, is, you know, we're going to need all these certifications, fire sprinkler certification, backflow certification, fire alarm certification. So those items will need to be taken care of before they can actually occupy the building, because they are life safety issues. The kitchen on the 1st floor is pretty much all drywalled. They're working a lot with the mechanicals. When I say mechanicals, I'm talking the stove. They've got the coolers in and so forth. But again, there's a lot of it looks like it's pretty close to being done, but there's a lot of small stuff they have to take care of, which takes a lot of time. So it's like I said, it's going to be a really nice asset to the city of University Heights. And it looks really nice. And up on those upper floors, boy, there's a heck of a nice view.
Any questions for Terry? I talked to Jim a little bit tonight, and he's going to bring pictures the next meeting, photos, and he said maybe April, maybe. He said there's a lot, there's a lot of little things, like Terry said, to get done. So maybe that's optimistic. I don't know.
I think it's probably about right on. I mean, the thing is to hook up those fire alarms. There's thousands of wires, and then they have to be hooked up into the fire alarm panel, and then it's got to be tested. Then there's sprinkler tests that have to be done, and there's just a lot of stuff that they have to coordinate to go ahead and get the building up and running. So I know another thing they might be looking at down the road too is before they do occupy, they're probably going to want to be able to bring staff in to go ahead, especially since they do have a kitchen on the main floor, to go ahead and, train, which as long as they're not staying there, I really don't see a problem with that.
I see. Well, thank you, Terry. Are there any more questions for Terry?
Real quick, Terry, you mentioned so they haven't gotten going on the 6th floor, which makes sense given the changes that have happened. Do they have to have that finished in order to get them occupancy permit?
No,
Okay.
they
just can't use it, obviously.
Correct. There's no, from what I remember, there's no real hallways up there or anything. Now, if there was, then they would need to have those common spaces completed, such as the corridors, and have the doors on and items like that, which we will look at before we give them any type of occupancy permit whatsoever. But I think they could probably go ahead and just close that whole 6th floor off for now.
And is there anything we need to do? I mean, you mentioned thinking ahead about temporary occupancy permits so that they can have occupancy, while we're still waiting on the plantings and whatever else. But is there anything we can do, or I guess you'll just let us know if there's something we can do to be thinking ahead so that we don't delay their occupancy another month just because of a city council, decision?
No, the occupancies would come from myself, but I would confide in city council if I know something is coming up and we're 2 days from a council meeting. I would probably give Louise a call and say, hey, Louise, they're looking to go ahead and occupy mid-April. This is what we have going on, and I feel comfortable, but I would like council to be on board with what they need to do yet, and to make sure that the building's safe is what we want.
Very good, thanks.
Terry, who monitors the swimming pool water? I know here a while back the Wasserbahn out there by the Amanas, I know they had an awesome time with bacteria levels and stuff. Is that something you do, or is there somebody else that monitors that?
That would be their staff.
Their staff is responsible for that. Okay.
Yeah, they would have someone, I would assume, certified to go ahead and monitor that daily. That's something that's a liability that the city doesn't want to take on to go ahead and monitor. You'd have to be certified in pool water or whatever, and I don't even know how you'd even go about doing that. That would be all on the actual hotel itself.
Okay. Thank you.
Another interesting thing that I found out that I did not know was, and I tell you the truth, I sort of forget how I stumbled onto it, but according to the state swimming pool code, they're actually required to have an actual phone, literally an actual mounted phone on the wall in case of an emergency, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, but they've got it or are working on getting that installed. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, it is.
There's a lot of stuff to keep up on, a lot. So,
Yeah.
but working with Stiltner and Glasgow has been real good. We've worked real good together, and with Dennis, who is the actual general contractor. Things have really worked out well. I mean, when they've got questions, they call, and when I see things that I think aren't right or need to be changed, they've been real receptive to it.
Thank you. It's nice to get a building inspector report on this. Thank you, Terry.
Anytime.
You can stay or you can leave, whatever you'd like.
All right.
Thanks again.
Yep. I probably will leave, Louise. I do have a fire meeting to go to tonight yet. So,
Oh my goodness.
so,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
We have consideration of resolution 2101, ratifying the mayor's appointments to the Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustment, and Tree Board. And as Steve sent you in his report, a revised report that I have a reappointment of Mary Panther to the Zoning Commission and a reappointment of Stephanie Gahn to the Board of Adjustment and an appointment of Lisa Haverkamp to the Tree Board. And Lisa Haverkamp has just about finished with her Master Gardener classes, and she was really excited about the opportunity. So is there a motion for the appointments?
I'll move, Louise.
Okay, motion by Lisa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bobby. Let's see, resolution, roll call vote.
Ready? Moore,
Aye.
O'Sullivan,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank David Bose for his time, talents, and service on the tree board, and most recently as the tree board chairperson. The next thing is I wanted to talk a little bit about the appointment. It's a discussion to a city council vacancy. And I wanted to do that for the people who watch this on TV or look at it online. And I wanted to announce that to the public that the council intends to fill the vacancy, the council member vacancy by appointment at the February 9th council meeting at 7 p.m. And this meeting will be held electronically by Zoom. So any qualified person interested in being the appointed council member is encouraged to submit his or her name to the city clerk. And candidates may submit a cover letter, resume, and/or other statement of qualifications by 5 p.m. February 1st. Candidates are not required to attend the February 9th meeting, but council may permit candidates to make oral presentations. You can read all the information on the city website. The city has received one application for the council member appointment, and that was from Nick Herbold. So then the next thing is I have MVPs for 2020. And every year I do some most valuable persons that volunteer their time. And I'm giving it again to Scott and Caroline Christensen for their wonderful work on the city garden. It was just a real ray of sunshine during this difficult year. that they still maintain the garden during the pandemic and the derecho. And I'm going to give them a gift card from Sidekick Coffee. And so thanks to Scott and Carol Ann. Let's see, is there anything else for me? I don't think so. And can anybody think of something I'm skipping over? But the legal report, Steve, you wrote up a nice legal report, I suppose, in Hawaii.
You're right, I did. Or at least that was the venue. I don't know if it was nice. I hope so. Yeah, the only thing I would add to what I wrote, so there's this conflict of interest form that everyone on the council, city staff is required to sign and get to the clerk no later than the first meeting, which is tonight, obviously. So if you have not done that, please get that. You can just sign it and email it back to them. That's the only thing I wanted to add.
So you're thinking that Mike should email it to everyone and then we'll sign it and send it back to him?
Yeah, and I emailed it with my report.
Did you?
Yeah, if you want me to email it a standalone right now, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
And then the other thing, could you just review, since I've been asked by several people about the rezoning of the Finkbein property, could you just speak publicly a little bit about it?
You bet, I'm happy to. So the developer, University of Iowa, the owner, and the development team that the council here has met with and heard from several times, they're continuing to work with the city of Iowa City staff, planning, zoning, those kinds of things concerning the usual stuff, setbacks, height, density, all those kinds of things. They haven't made formal rezoning requests at this point because things just have to go kind of in sequence. But the city of Iowa City's posted a notice of rezoning. You may have seen that at the property. So the several things that will be happening and will involve the council of University Heights. Our council will be taking action to sever a portion of the current city boundary, to move that boundary the way the council decided. The city of Iowa City will be taking action to annex that portion into the city of Iowa City. And then once that's done, then the city of Iowa City will go ahead and formally consider the rezoning request. Once the rezoning request has been approved, then of course a building permit would be requested and construction would commence. The word that we have from the city of Iowa City is that process is probably, is going to take well into this calendar year, maybe a summer, fall timeframe before construction might commence. It could go faster, but the next thing that this council will hear by way of an action item will be a consideration of the 28E revenue sharing agreement with the city of Iowa City, which I've seen a first draft of and I'm kind of evaluating on my side. And then secondly will be that the steps necessary to sever the property.
Are there any questions for Steve about any of his report? Okay, thank you, Steve. We'll go on to the clerk report. And Mike, you submitted a report.
I don't really have anything to add to that. My report's on there along with Brian Jensen's housing update. And most of that is what he did with his rental inspections. Didn't have any complaints like he did the month before to deal with. But I figure when complaints come, that'll be Troy talking about snow later in the meeting. So, but I don't have anything else.
Okay, any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you very much, Mike.
Yep.
We'll go on to the city treasurer report and payment of the bills. Lori sent her report and I see Lori arrived. Here you are, Lori.
Hello.
Okay. And so one of the things is, we need to approve the warrants. And everyone had a chance to review the warrants. Is there any objection to paying the bills? Hearing none, the bills will be paid by unanimous consent. Is there anything you wanted to say, Lori, about anything, or ask Lori any questions?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thanks, Lori.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go down to the police chief and committee report. Who'd like to start? Troy or Sarah?
Go ahead, Troy. I don't really have much to add in addition to my report. So go ahead, Troy.
First of all, can you all hear me okay?
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I submitted my report. I don't need to touch on everything. I would like to just point out that I am in the process of bringing on, hopefully everything's going well, another part-time officer. That's no additional cost to the city unless we use that officer. It's as needed only, but will help me cover that. Item C, under staffing, health insurance costs. I've had conversations with a couple counselors, Counselor Scott, Counselor O'Sullivan, and Mayor Fromm about this. Our insurance costs last year went up. I can't remember if it was 30 or 31%. This year they're going up 27%. When I say our, those expenses are shared by both the city and the officer. I think that point is made there in number C. I'm not asking for anything at this time. I expected the city to be in a better position than they are, and I expected the Marriott to be online. I expected there to have been a successful football season. I didn't expect COVID, but the 27% increase, two officers in particular, Officer Brinkema and Officer Mackey, they're the only ones who have family plans. And again, while it is shared 50-50, the premium cost for that family plan with the city, it amounts to a 3% reduction in their gross income, their gross salary there for the year. We gave them a 2.2% raise last year, cost of living. So they're actually, as far as their gross pay adjusted for cost of living, they're in worse shape than they were at this time last year. It particularly caused Officer Brinkema some consternation, and I talked him through that. He knows that it's something that I do intend to address with the city and with council going forward. I'm not comfortable right now saying this is what I need to make happen. I mean, you all are aware of the financial situation of the city better than I am, although I do try to keep abreast of that. So again, it is something that is causing concern among two of my full-time officers. I believe we can tread water for a while, but it is something that needs to be addressed, if not now, sometime in the near future. So I point that out. Football, skipping along, football went well. Despite COVID, despite our changes in ordinance, there were really no repeat problems, and any issues that we had with people wanting to tailgate or celebrate football were easily dealt with. Mike Haverkamp mentioned the snowfalls. We've had 3 significant snowfalls now. After the first snowfall, if I'm remembering correctly, there were 14 properties that didn't, within the time frames required, clear their walks. Dealt with those and did get some compliance, and also Mother Nature helped clear some of those walks. The second snowfall, there were less. In this third snowfall, there were even less properties. Some were a little slower to clear than the 24 hours, but most got to it in that time. There were only 2 properties that I contacted Mark. I contacted Hawkeye Construction and had them cleared. One of my first memories from coming on as police chief with University Heights in April. That memory is of 2 very upset homeowners bringing bills in and not being happy with the communication. As Stan Laberman pointed out, we have a very robust and well-written ordinance. Notice isn't required, but at least initially I wanted to, again, deal with everything that I could by education and trying to gain voluntary compliance. As I explained to Mark with Hawkeye Construction, I will in the future be more quick about moving forward and having properties cleared. But I want to take away absolutely any excuse, not that there still won't be some made, but any reasonable excuse about having properties cleared. So I think that it was relatively successful despite the fact that we had large snow. Some of the complaints I received after the fact, I had to do actually with our snow contractor and with properties being plowed in or view obstructions. I was able to take care of those. I forwarded you, I gave you all a heads up that you might be being contacted by a resident of University Heights. I'm not sure if she ever followed through with that or not. I had a good conversation with her. I, in a very few minutes, maybe 5 to 8 minutes, cleared the unclearable obstruction that was at the end of her sidewalk. Her neighbors had done it on the other side of the street. I mean, I pointed out that it could be done. She just couldn't do it with her plastic snow shovel. So anyway, I believe that I've addressed the issues, and given the amount of snowfall, I thought that that was largely a success. I have not heard from very many of you on snow issues, so I hope that I'm right in that assessment. Shout out to Officer Brinkema, and I saw that Councilor Moore included this in her report also. But Officer Brinkema is one of my late night officers, or one of your late night officers, and he spent a good portion of one of his shifts shoveling out, and he said he counted 37 of them, but shoveling out 37 fire hydrants in University Heights. After doing that, he suggested that maybe we try to implement and adopt a fire hydrant community service program. So I'll be working with Lisa to try to get something on the webpage and see if we can't generate some interest in that. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I think all of you know Kevin Sanders, the president of the Iowa City chapter, the adult chapter of the NAACP. We have worked very closely with Kevin all year, really beginning with a work session, a work group that we had not too long after the George Floyd killing, and lots and lots of good things have come out of that, not just locally, but across the state. I am going to draft basically a letter of appreciation for him and get some sort of small, I don't know whether it'll be a plaque or something he can put in a paperweight. But unless you object, I would like to do that. I did discuss this with Kevin in advance because I didn't want to do anything that he thought would be detrimental to his role with the NAACP, but he would be appreciative. So I'm going to make that happen. And unless you all think that that's a mistake. Really, other than that, the list is pretty self-explanatory. I know I touched on things that aren't really truly police issues, but that's because I get involved in so many things that aren't really police issues, and I want to make sure you know what's happening with my time and your officers' time. Are there any questions?
I just want to say that it's gone really well with you and the police taking over these sidewalks and, you know, the shoveling things. I think it's gone better than it has. And that's worked real well. And I want to thank you for doing that.
Brian will do follow-up. We just discussed it. And again, we're out there all the time. The list of non-compliant properties, I will forward them to him. He knows which ones that we actually had service done on or removal done on. But Brian's been great to work with too. And anyway, I don't want you to think that I'm
taking this money from Brian too.
Right.
Because we're already paying you. And so that's very nice. And I know you've been keeping Brian updated all along. And I'm thinking, Troy, that as we move forward with the budget and collecting that, Bobby and I and Steve Cool and you will be involved in a lot of it. And we'll try to bring something to the February meeting. Maybe we can figure something too after we review some of the budget numbers.
I appreciate that. And I not knowing who else to turn to and bouncing stuff off, I talked with the city treasurer, I talked with Lori a little bit about some possibilities. So I do have some ideas. I just, despite the fact that we're receiving nearly $25,000 to cover public safety expenses during COVID. We're also not going to generate what we have typically generated in enforcement revenue. So I'm reluctant to come and say I really need you to do this for my department, but it is something that needs to be addressed. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Any questions for Sarah or Chief? Thank you. Okay, we'll go down to engineers report and the committee report. Who'd like to start? Doug, do you want Josiah to start, or do you want?
Most of it's going to be Josiah. I just got a couple of things to go over real quick about one more time. A huge thank you to Officer Brinkema. I just want everybody to know how much work that was to shovel that snow around all those fire hydrants. A lot of that snow was already plowed. And if anybody's ever had to shovel already plowed snow, I'll tell you, that's a back-breaking job. And I want everybody to realize how much work Brian put into that effort to clean all those fire hydrants. And I just wanted to give him a little more recognition and thank him one more time, especially for me. Snow removal wasn't too bad, like Troy had mentioned. We had some obstructions and stuff that, in the heat of the battle when you're pushing snow, and, those things were bound to happen because it was a large volume snow. I had a few neighbors that had some complaints, and some other citizens that even up here along Sunset, where in the middle of the night, one of the residents had hired somebody to plow their sidewalk along Sunset, and they backed in off the street onto the sidewalk and drove down the sidewalk on the west side of Sunset. And well, it was nice, but they backed onto one of my neighbors and packed the snow down, which made it almost impossible to get back up now. But he was kind enough to clean the people that he hired, but kind of left him kind of a mess to deal with. So you'll have those issues. And I see we had a couple of people complaining about their sidewalks being ordered to be clean edge to edge. And I've had a few people say, well, that's great, but our streets are not getting clean edge to edge and they have no place to park. So don't ask me to clean my sidewalks edge to edge if you can't clean your streets. So there's some of the comments that I'm hearing. So I just wanted to pass that along. But I said, I think eventually that'll get resolved. So just hang tight, and I'll get a hold of Mark. If there's some places that need to be, cleaned up a little bit better, we'll get to them. So just hang tight and we'll get to you. So other than that, like I say, it was a large snow event and very challenging, I know. So I think Mark did a pretty good job, and so far so good. So yeah, the rest of it I'm going to let Josiah run with, and he's got a very, very good presentation tonight. So take it away.
Thanks, Doug.
Right. Thanks, Doug. Hey, since we're talking about snow and our stories, I did have one snow removal contact. Last month, I talked with Pat Bauer on Kosher. And for you guys who know where Pat lives, right next to him is a property that's for sale.
Yes.
340 Kosher. The back of their lot has a sidewalk on Melrose, and it's right where the street starts to narrow down, and there's not much room between the street and the sidewalk there. And I think Pat, and maybe Pat and his wife, spent some time shoveling that walk out after the plows had gone through.
Your volume's a little weird. It's kind of going in and out a little bit. Can you, I don't know. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Josiah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm close to the computer. I'll get even closer.
Okay.
But anyway, so Pat shoveled that sidewalk out. He talked to me about it. I did talk with City of Iowa City because they were doing that section of Melrose, and just made them aware to try and slow down through that section so they don't throw so much snow up on the sidewalk. And they said they would take that into consideration and try and reduce the snow they throw on the walk there. All right, how's the volume now?
Well, right now it's good, but you were still going in and out a little.
Kind of mumbly.
When you said, how is it now? It sounded really good.
My face is literally right on the laptop here. Okay. So I submitted a written report. Let's just a couple things. First of all, item 2, does anybody know where Gulfview Drive is in University Heights? It's nowhere. I meant to write Gulfview Avenue, of course, Gulfview Avenue improvements. So I attached a set of final review drawings for the Gulfview Avenue project. Our plan is to have all of our final edits and review of the notes and get it ready for bidding in the next 2 weeks or so. We're planning to have a public hearing at the February 9th regular council meeting. Public hearing to consider the plans and the specs and the proposed costs. Question I have, maybe for you, Steve, is do we need to set that public hearing tonight, or will that just be a part of the?
Yeah, we need to
Agenda.
set it tonight.
Okay.
Is there a motion to set a public hearing for the Gulfview Avenue project
I'll motion.
on February 9th at 7 p.m.? And that's Bobby made the
Yes.
motion. And where's the second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Louise. So if anybody has any questions, comments on anything as you look at those drawing concerns, please let me know either tonight or in the next week or two.
The only comment that I had, Josiah, I've talked to Paul over the months, I guess, but I mean, you feel like you're coordinating with him. He seems to, I mean, he's obviously the most familiar with the problems that come up there with water and drainage and whatnot. You feel like you're connecting with him well on what the issues are. Not that you're unaware, but just that he's got a lot of experience. You feel like you're connecting with him.
I do, as far as I know. I mean, we've met a couple times and talked about all his issues that he's aware of, having been there, and how we're going to address them, and we seem to be on the same page.
Great.
Spoke to Paul this morning and I forwarded to him the report because Paul usually calls me on the day of the council meeting anyway. And so that's a good question. He's aware. He told me he was aware,
Great.
but he knows he's going to get contacted after this meeting too.
Very good.
So that's Gulfview Avenue. Next item I touched on was a couple of work in the right-of-way items, which I'll just summarize real quick. We've got correspondence back and forth with CenturyLink on their service lines to the Marriott Hotel. And we do have a revised submittal from them, which should be good because they were originally trying to get service by running new lines on Melrose Avenue and across Melrose Avenue, which is a busy place, as you might expect, with underground utilities and future changes. So I think they're going to feed that hotel from the backside, which I think will work much better. Mid-American has 2 pole replacements they'll be doing shortly. There's one on Kosher Avenue at 255 and one at Grand Avenue at near 1424. And those are both poles that Verizon will be putting their small cell facilities onto. So Mid-American's replacing those with new poles before Verizon puts the small cell units on them. Mid-American also has a proposal in. They're working with homeowners, but they're looking at putting several sections of overhead utility lines underground. This would be back on the north end of town, like Glencrest, Prospect, North Sunset, sort of some of those streets that have been platted, but don't have streets in them yet near the Swisher tract. So that's under review right now. We do have contact with one resident at 316 Monroe about widening a driveway. And had some investigation and contact with the City of Iowa City and some residents on Lemur Court, where we've had a a bit of a sinkhole open up next to 11 Lemur Court. City of Iowa City Sanitary Sewer did get into the sewer system and run a camera through there. They found that there was a break in the sanitary sewer service line that goes back to the house near that sinkhole. And they also were going to have Iowa City Water come and check out the water service, which is in that same area. And then they are contacting the homeowner or the property owner as their typical matter of business when they find those. So I don't have any other update at the moment on when they're going to plan to repair that. The last item I have is the follow-up to the Melrose pedestrian crossing analysis that the MPO started last year. It was discussed in December, and now they've put together an analysis of that location based on the data they collected, which was attached. So they kind of go through a summary of where the location is in the background and sort of in detail the analysis of the data they collected and the different criteria they look at for mid-block crossings. The last page, their conclusion was that, so there's 4 criteria that they look at. 2 of the 4 criteria were not met. One of those was the volume of pedestrian crossings, and that was very close. And as they note, due to the COVID-19 situation, we're probably seeing a lot less pedestrian traffic than we would typically see. So it did not meet it, but it was close, and that should be taken into consideration. Ultimately, they think that this could be sort of a unique situation in that, as we all know, because that's one of the reasons we wanted them to look at it, that is a location where everybody's crossing anyway. And particularly given the development of the Marriott Hotel, that's going to introduce a new stream of pedestrian traffic, basically right at that exact same spot, which I think will increase those numbers as well. So they thought that proposed location that we had looked at, just west of the Marriott entrance drive would be a good location for a mid-block crossing. And then they have, of course, list a number of items. I think if we're going to do that as a location, we should include, ADA compliant curb ramps, painted crosswalk signs, adding a street light, and then removing the existing curb ramp and crosswalk at Olive Court, the one that is not seeing a lot of use. So it was a pretty good report, I thought, from MPO. And I think at this point, I would agree. I think this is a good solution to sort of the pedestrian traffic we're seeing there. Obviously, the Olive Court crosswalk is not being used. This one does have better visibility, both directions. And like I said, I think that's where you're seeing all our pedestrian crossings. So it makes sense to accommodate that with a more defined crossing location.
That's where I crossed tonight on my way home at that same spot. I'm just as guilty.
Do you guys know what, Doug or Josiah, I found it was interesting that their criteria number 4 was crossing alternatives. It felt opposite to me. So pedestrians did not have access to controlled crosswalk within 200 feet. So why would it be sort of, it would not meet the criteria if there is not an alternative? Seems like you'd be more compelled to add a crosswalk. Feet.
Yeah, the way I read that was sort of 2 conditions: the controlled within 200, and then also the length of the block face between adjacent intersections is greater than 600 feet, which it did not meet that one. So I think they were saying because of that, they said it does not meet that criteria. But yeah, I agree with you. It could be looked at both ways.
Yeah.
One question I had, Josiah, if you put the crosswalk on the west side of the Marriott entrance, does that kind of jive with the plans for the Marriott? Is there a sidewalk from all those people staying, going to the football game, the hospital? does that jive with their sidewalk and their walkway? Because I'm just thinking, you have people walk down to the end of the driveway and then they're crossing over the driveway just to cross the street or whatnot.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I guess, what's the clear walkway for people for pedestrians leaving the Marriott going to the hospital or the stadium? Is that on the west side of the Marriott driveway or the east side of the Marriott driveway?
Okay. Yeah, they have a sidewalk on the east side of their driveway.
Okay. I found this on the web.
Sorry, Siri's talking to me. Keep going.
So they have a sidewalk on the east side of their drive, on the other side of their driveway. But there's also, I guess on football games, I would assume people are going to walk everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they would either have to stay on the south side of Melrose and go all the way down to Pedestrian or the next traffic signal, or it would be just crossing the driveway and going north. We looked at possibly putting the crossing on the same side of the entrance on the east side, but we run into the barrier rail that's part of the bridge on both sides. So
Yeah.
So Josiah, what do you want the council to talk about with this report?
well, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, what are you looking for? Do you want to look at evaluating the cost of it, or what?
I would say ultimately, it's up to the council if they think this is a good decision going forward. We would need to get it included in a budget as a project and associate some sort of estimated cost with it at this point, if it's something you wanted to take a look at as early as the next fiscal year budget.
I wanted to maybe recommend to council, during COVID and everything, and the hotel's not opening and things, that maybe I don't want to spend money having the engineer evaluate right now. I think, is there some way we can put it on the next budget to label? How can you do that, Josiah? If council would agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could get a ballpark number at it without spending too much time. Just so you'd have a placeholder as a project if it's something you wanted to include, and at least have an idea of what you're looking at.
And then you'd put it on the budget for the next budget, right?
I would probably include it in the one we have coming up in February.
Okay. But you'd get a ballpark figure.
Yeah, yeah.
I
We wouldn't have to get super detailed.
I think that would be helpful. I mean, I agree with the volume statement that probably, the assessment or the evaluation done in November probably doesn't reflect the usual pedestrian traffic in that location. So, I would imagine that criteria probably would have been met had they done it on a non-COVID year.
I can tell you, I've walked to the hospital now for probably 6 years, 7 years now. So I got a pretty good feel, even pre-COVID. That's always been a heavily traveled crosswalk, even though it's not a crosswalk, even before COVID. So I agree the COVID has definitely taken the numbers down, but I can tell you for the years up to the COVID, it's been, it's crazy how many people will cross right at that driveway, because a lot of people come up from those apartments that are south of the hotel, and that is like, it's almost like a deer crossing. I mean, there's just a constant stream of students all day long, and that's just the way it's been for the last few years. So I've seen it firsthand on my walks to work. So if you want a kind of a good feel, I can tell you from memory that the last 5 years, it has been a very busy intersection.
Do you think we should do this, Doug? Like,
I absolutely
this
do.
project?
I absolutely, and I don't want to wait for the streetscape. I think we got to move a little
I'm not,
quicker
I
on
don't
it
want to
than-
wait for that either.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, the sooner the better on this. I mean, I've got some doctors that have been emailing me and they really would like to see this resolved sooner than later. And like I say, I'd be a user of it myself. So yeah, anything we can do to fast forward this, I'm in agreement with it
Are
right
you
now.
okay with getting an educated, you know, so we don't spend money right now? I mean, we're trying to get money for other things, and because of COVID and things and other issues, the ratio, we're gonna lose some money there. That's gonna cost us something, even though FEMA.
Well, I would think that we could get an estimate. I mean, an estimate shouldn't cost anything. You know, a quote, that's when you start getting into more of the nuts and bolts there. You might have to put a little money down for a quote, but an estimate should be a pretty good guideline of what we're talking between this number and that
I'm
number.
trying to
And get
say
pretty close.
500 here, 800 here. I mean, I'm trying, you know, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just saying, let's put it in there. And Josiah, can you do something like that? Or I was trying to ask you what the estimate would cost, but I don't know.
I think with an hour of work, we can get something ballpark roughly, just make sure we have everything covered and, yeah, I think we can get you in the ballpark fairly.
Is that okay,
easily.
Doug?
Yeah, no, I think we got the right guy already on board to give us
Very
that
good at
information.
estimates.
Oh yeah, I mean, he sees it all the time. I mean, you know what it's going to cost to chunk out a curb or put a crosswalk in or put a street light up. I mean, he's done this, you know, hundreds of times. So Josiah, I'm very confident on we'll come up with a real good number.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and do that and get that included for our February discussion on the next budget. So that's everything on my report. Louise?
Thanks, Josiah. Does anyone have any more comments about any of that? I don't want to cut you off.
Louise, can I ask him one question? This is Troy.
Oh, is this Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, whose voice is that?
Josiah, on Lemur, I'm going to
Yeah.
contact Russ then and have him put something other than cones out. During the last snow, those cones got knocked all over the place. We replaced them, but you can't see the hole when it snowed over and the cones weren't doing their job. So if based on what you've reported and it sounds like the time that it's going to be at, I'm going to have something more permanent put up, if that's okay.
We have an extra car laying around. We can park over the top of it.
Oh, that's true too. That's true too. Have it sink in.
Okay, yeah, I will, on my end, I'll try and follow up with Iowa City and see if I can get a hold of the homeowner directly and find out what their timing is.
Sure. And like I said, I can contact Russ, or if it's something that Iowa City would appropriately be doing, if they're doing the work, I don't care, but I don't want somebody to, since we're working on it, be aware of it. I don't want to incur any liability.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll go to Bobby for finance report.
Whoopsie, I'm muted here. One sec. Oh no, I'm not muted. Sorry, I thought I was.
No problem.
We heard
Well,
everything
before I
you said.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing I didn't say anything I wasn't supposed to. Huh? I'm just kidding. Before I forget, there are I'm trying to find the dates here. So we need to, I guess I'm getting this from Steve Cool, we need to have a special meeting on Tuesday, March 2nd to approve the tax levy rate. And then March 23rd, which is another public hearing to approve of the budget that we discuss on February 9th. And so, Steve, we kind of need to get the numbers in by the 1st, so that we can get a budget put together and proposed for that meeting on the 9th. And so, you know, you can work with me and Luis and Steve to get your numbers in, and that's kind of it, I guess.
Those meetings shouldn't be very long, right, Bobby?
Right.
Right.
Can you say those
short and
dates?
sweet.
Can you say those dates again?
Tuesday, March 2nd.
Okay.
and the March 23rd.
They're all Tuesdays.
Probably at 7.
Yes.
Yep. So I mean, I think really, you know, in terms of the rest of the budget, I mean, it's kind of a timing thing. We're down, you know, COVID has affected us a little bit. There's revenue from football that's lost, like Troy mentioned, parking, or not parking, but just regular traffic fines and whatnot are down from what's typical in a given year. But you know, if you look at the P&L, you know, it looks like we're way behind. It's kind of a timing thing on collecting property taxes and also with what we spent for derecho relief and whatnot. So, you know, I guess nothing really in my mind that's overly no glaring problems. So.
Okay, and when do you need the numbers from staff and
Yeah, by the 1st.
1st of February?
February 1st, yep.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Bobby?
Were you, excuse me, this is Mike. Bobby, were you making a motion to set those dates for public hearing or special meetings? Or will that happen at the February meeting?
I don't know. That's a question. Luis, do I
Well,
need to
it
do
was
that?
right now, it was just to, I mean, it was just to let everybody know, you know, we did the same thing last year, the exact same thing last year, because what happened is they changed the state changed the date of the, and it's permanent, it's March 31st. And they have to follow some special rules. And the tax levy rate is one of those new things, Mike, and you didn't.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, are you going to set those dates right now, or are you going to wait and do that at the February meeting?
Well, I want to set those dates. I mean, the only one that's a public hearing is the 23rd, the budget.
Okay.
But we'll just would anyone make a motion to set those 2 special meeting dates, and the 23rd is a public hearing for the budget approval? So it's March 2nd. Is it March 2nd? Right. And March 23rd.
I can make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lisa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, thanks, Mike. We set those dates.
Okay. As the guy taking the minutes, I just wanted to make sure that was what you were doing.
I'm glad you're here, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you. The building, zoning, and sanitation, I don't have a report, but you know, we have the building inspector working on things, and of course we have the rental inspector working on things. And I've been talking to sanitation, you know, like for dates or different things. So there's no report there unless somebody has a problem or a question. Okay, then we'll go to Lisa with e-government. And Lisa, you sent around a very nice report.
Thank you,
Did you
Louise.
want to comment on it, or?
Just, it has links to things that are on the website, so go and check them out. And I will just be the third person, I guess, to Little Dog Max and I would like to thank Officer Brinkema for clearing the fire hydrants. He did a fabulous job. I mean, he did the 3 feet of clearance around the fire hydrant. So, and that's not his job to do. So we're going to need people to help out and adopt some of these. However many.
Good idea. I like the
around
adoption
town.
thing. I'm curious, what have we done in the past for that? Or we just haven't?
I think at one time we didn't do fire hydrants, but we tried to get people to clear storm drains. And I'm not sure, that was quite some time ago. I'm not sure.
I think we've had some council do some of that in the past. Don't you think so, Mike? I can think of somebody who did some of it, a long time ago, but this was quite a big snow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's been quite a while since I think we've had to worry about it.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah. But we do just ask people, we put it in some of the reports that we ask people if they can clear the drains, just kind of like in their area. But we've never really talked about the fire hydrants specifically. But Lisa was talking to me and she's researched today and she's researching other cities and what they do. And so she has some ideas of that.
I'm counting on Chief Kelsey to come up with some good ideas here too.
We'll get it fixed.
Since I think he mentioned it. So
Hey, I had another question. I'm kind of embarrassed to ask this because I don't know the answer. Who is in charge of, or who puts out the totes with the sand and the ice melt or whatever it is on Sunset?
Mark Phelps, you mean the barrel, the sand
Yeah,
barrel?
yeah,
Mark Phelps, we have our contractor do those.
got it.
Yeah, there's like, Doug, remind me, is there 5 of them or 6 of them? We talked about it a little bit, but there's specific areas that we traditionally put out every year, and there's like 5 or 6 of them, and
Like 5, I think.
Yeah,
And-
okay. I forgot about it, and then halfway through the last snow, I remembered it and was pretty thankful. So those are there to be utilized, I guess.
yeah, it's
So
very, especially if there's.
aren't they intended for like places in the street that get icy? Wasn't that the intention? I think we talked about that when I was writing this up for the website.
I guess you know better than I do. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, we have one here on Oak Crest because it's, you're on a hill and you have to stop.
That
And
incline.
then, yeah, and as soon as you start to go, you end up going down the hill backwards. So I imagine it's pretty much any place that there's a hill and a stop sign involved. That's where we have them.
Right, yeah. Okay, I can read you from the website, folks. Sand, salt, and barrels placed around town is for use on icy patches that may form on streets. Yep. So,
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for the freebie then, I guess, for that one time.
But if you stop there,
You're gonna do your driveway now, aren't you?
I've already got it. I've already took it and filled up the big container in my garage, so I'm set for a couple of years.
That's
No,
where
I'm
it's been going.
totally kidding.
what was I going to say about that? Oh, we've had problems sometimes with people putting doggy bags in there, or
That's a recent problem. I opened up the one on George Street and found that just last week.
Yeah, that's not so good.
Mm-mm.
So
so
I
is it stenciled on there?
side. Didn't we have something put on the side? I think it's printed in there like no trash, or
I think they did say that.
but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they know what they were doing.
But we've attempted to stop it.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So did you have anything else, Lisa?
No.
Thanks for working on that fire hydrant. Are there any announcements? No. Is there any objection to adjourning? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned by
Wait, we have